In the doctrine of modern theater warfare, air superiority is not just gained in the skies, it is dictated by the logistics on the ground. In the summer of 2026, the Kremlin initiated a high-stakes strategic relocation. A massive operational convoy consisting of nearly 50 specialized military vehicles began its journey south. This was not a routine troop rotation. This was the strategic teeth of Russia's integrated air defense system, the S-400 Triumph. The convoy was a self-sustaining mobile fortress, S-400 transporter erector launchers, TELs 92N6E Gravestone, engagement radars 91N6E panoramic detection radars, command post vehicles, automated logistics reloaders, and heavy electronic warfare escorts. For Moscow, this convoy represented the ultimate Crimean shield. If these assets successfully integrated into the existing air defense network on the peninsula, they would establish an almost impenetrable anti-access/area denial A2/AD bubble. Future Ukrainian cruise missile strikes using Storm Shadow or ATACMS would face an exponentially higher interception rate. The window for Kiev to disrupt Russian operations in the Black Sea was closing. Russian commanders calculated that the highest threat level existed during the initial loading phase near the border. Now, as the convoy entered what they assumed to be secure rear echelon territory, a sense of tactical complacency settled in. But in modern asymmetric warfare, lines on a map are an illusion. While the column moved at a steady 40 kilometers per hour beneath a thick cloud of dust, hundreds of kilometers away, Ukrainian military intelligence analysts were executing a masterclass in geospatial analysis. They weren't looking at the vehicles, they were looking at the terrain. Through continuous satellite reconnaissance and deep network human intelligence, they identified a critical vulnerability, a single heavily degraded bridge approach just north of Armyansk. Weeks of heavy transport usage and previous kinetic activity had left the pavement cracked, reinforced only by temporary steel repair plates. The operational math was simple: a 3-kilometer-long convoy cannot maintain its tactical spacing over a damaged choke point. To cross the steel plate safely, the heavy 30-ton S-400 vehicles would have to brake sharply. Speed would drop to single digits. The vital 50-meter safety buffer between vehicles would disappear. Nearly 50 high-value targets would be compressed into a tight bumper-to-bumper formation. Russia viewed the bridge as a minor logistical delay. Ukraine viewed it as a kill zone. At exactly 5:41 a.m., the operation transitioned from planning to execution. A Ukrainian Leleka 100 long-range reconnaissance drone flying at a high altitude to avoid localized radar detection picked up the thermal signatures of the lead vehicles. Direction confirmed. Operational speed decelerating. Target profile matched. The Russian escort was not blind. Deployed within the convoy was an R330Z Zytel mobile jamming station actively scanning for uplink signals. Within minutes, Russian EW operators picked up a localized pattern of high-frequency data spikes. They couldn't pinpoint the exact drone operators, but they had a grid. The Russian chain of command reacted with brutal efficiency. Coordinates were pushed down to a localized battery of 152mm Mesta-S self-propelled howitzers deployed north of Armyansk. Inside the Ukrainian control vehicle, telemetry data showed the convoy approaching the choke point, but the threat matrix was shifting against them. The order was given to pack up and displace immediately. Antennas were retracted, fiber optic lines severed, and the heavily camouflaged command truck surged forward just as the first Russian 152mm artillery shell impacted. The explosion detonated exactly where the Ukrainian team had been stationed less than 2 minutes prior. Shrapnel and shock waves tore through the tree line, showering the retreating Ukrainian vehicle with debris. A second and third shell followed in tight succession. The Russian military was no longer just shielding its assets. They were actively hunting the eyes of the Ukrainian military. Yet, despite the incoming fire, one Ukrainian operator kept his terminal open, maintaining a tenuous link to an entirely different class of weapon system waiting in the wings. By 6:12 a.m., the lead elements of the S-400 convoy reached the damaged bridge approach. The bottleneck effect was immediate. The column ground to a halt, stacking up exactly as predicted, 6 kilometers away, hidden in a defilade behind an irrigation canal. A Ukrainian first-person view FPV drone team prepared their strike craft. These weren't standard commercial drones. These were heavily modified quadcopters carrying custom-engineered PG-7 VL-shaped charge anti-tank warheads designed specifically to pierce armor and ignite solid rocket propellant. The FPV drone launched into the cold morning air. As it closed the distance, the electronic environment turned hostile. The Russian Zhitel jammer began flooding the 2.4 and 5.8 GHz control frequencies with high-power white noise. On the pilot's monitor, the video feed deteriorated instantly. Rolling bars of static tore across the screen. For 2 agonizing seconds, the pilot was completely blind, flying purely on muscle memory and inertial telemetry. When the feed partially stabilized, half the horizon was gone, flickering in distorted hues of gray and green. Suddenly, a new threat emerged, not from the ground but from the sky. Russian air defense doctrine had evolved, introducing dedicated interceptor quadcopters tasked with ramming enemy drones. A high-speed Russian interceptor drone was spotted on an angled trajectory closing rapidly from the east. The sound of high RPM electric motors finally alerted the ground troops. A Russian BTR-82, a armored personnel carrier serving as the convoy's close escort, swung its turret around. Its 30mm 2A-72 autocannon opened fire, ripping the sky apart with high-explosive incendiary tracer rounds. The FPV pilot aggressively veered left, utilizing low-hanging power lines, and stalled civilian transport trucks as physical shields. The target was now dead ahead. The pilot committed to the terminal dive phase. 200 feet, 100 feet, 50 feet, the FPV drone slammed directly into the side of an S-400 transporter erector launcher. The shaped charge detonated with flawless precision, piercing the reinforced steel canister and igniting the solid fuel rocket motor of a 48N6E2 surface-to-air missile. The result was catastrophic. A massive hyperbaric-like fireball erupted from the center of the bridge approach. The immense thermal energy instantly cooked off adjacent fuel bladders. A secondary explosion tore through a nearby command vehicle, sending a wall of black diesel smoke and shrapnel cascading across the narrow roadway. Drivers panicked, abandoning their cabs and running for cover. The bridge approach was transformed into a chaotic inferno of burning aluminum and steel. The Russian chain of command was in a state of fractured panic. Radio networks were flooded with conflicting orders. Heavy BRM armored recovery vehicles tried to force their way backward through the smoke to clear a path, while officers stood on the road attempting to manually guide the surviving launcher forward. For Ukraine, the operational window was down to seconds. They had only one remaining FPV drone in the immediate sector capable of a strike. Its battery was already at 26%. Russian small arms fire peppered the air, but the drone was too low and too fast. It impacted the reload carrier directly between the exposed missile canisters. The ensuing chain reaction was apocalyptic. The detonation of 4 solid-fuel rocket motors simultaneously created a catastrophic blast wave that obliterated everything within a 50-meter radius. The sheer overpressure tore the surviving S-400 launcher off its suspension, lifting the massive vehicle and slamming it violently against the concrete guardrails of the bridge approach. Its heavy radar arrays were shredded, its internal electronics fried by the immense thermal pulse. A heavy recovery truck caught fire instantly, its driver unable to reverse through the twisted metal behind him. The entire bridge approach was completely rendered impassable, choked by burning military hardware, collapsing infrastructure, and toxic chemical smoke. The ambush north of Armyansk highlights a fundamental truth of 21st century warfare: mass and sophistication mean nothing without logistical security. Russian planners calculated for fuel consumption, route security, and electronic protection, but they failed to account for a minor geospatial anomaly and the relentless adaptability of an asymmetric adversary. In the end, the S-400 convoy did not fail because its technology was obsolete. It failed because it was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time under the gaze of an enemy that understood that the most powerful shield is useless if it can be broken on the way to the battlefield. What do you think? In modern peer-to-peer warfare, does strategic victory belong to the side with the most advanced weapon systems, or to the side that can most effectively exploit the vulnerabilities of military logistics? Leave your analysis in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe for more deep dive tactical breakdowns. We will see you in the next brief.